Today we're taking a look at these NCAAF matches, which are happening on Saturday, September 18, 2021, and giving you match breakdowns, betting tips and predictions in general on these games. Welcome back to High Stakes, let's get straight into it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to get notified as soon as we release these sport prediction videos, and if you would like more betting tips and predictions, then check out our Patreon in the link down below. Our new Patreon is a way for us to help you improve your chances of making more money. 5 plans are available for each and every one of you. You can get 30 extra betting picks all the way up to 270 extra betting picks per month. Stop wasting hours of your time searching for bad betting advice that ends up costing you a lot of money. Join the High Stakes Patreon now and get the best betting picks and advice. Michigan State vs Miami, Florida. Michigan State is averaging 40 points per game. They scored 42 points in their last game, throwing for 323 yards and rushing for 272 yards in the win. King threw for 200 yards and rushed for another 67 in last week's win. Veteran running back Cameron Harris rushed for 91 yards and a touchdown. Don Chaney Jr. also scored a touchdown, but he was forced to leave the game with an injury. He was ruled out for the season on Monday due to the right knee issue. Backup Jalen Knighton has 2 games of a suspension left to serve, so the Hurricanes are thin at running back. They are only averaging 3.5 yards per carry this season. Starting linebacker Keontra Smith also suffered an injury against Appalachian State and will miss a few weeks. Peyton Thorne completed 15 of 21 passes for 280 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jordan Simmons had 16 carries for 121 yards, while Jaden Reed had 4 catches for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Hurricanes were blown out by top-ranked Alabama in their season opener. They bounced back with a 25-23 win over Appalachian State last weekend, but it was anything but a comprehensive effort. Miami was forced to kick a go-ahead field goal with 2:04 remaining in the game as it rallied from a halftime deficit to grab the win. The Hurricanes have a ton of experience, which played an important role in their win over Appalachian State. They are led by quarterback Derek King, who is 3 games shy of 50 in his collegiate career. Michigan State has done a good job defensively, giving up 17.5 points per game. They gave up 14 points in their last game and will need another solid defensive effort if they want to get the win. Our first betting advice is to pick Michigan State +6. Miami is averaging 19 points per game. They scored 25 points in their last game, throwing for 200 yards and rushing for 175 yards in the win. Sophomore quarterback Peyton Thorne, who has taken over for former starter Rocky Lombardi, has completed 65.2% of his attempts for 465 yards and 5 touchdowns. He has done an excellent job of taking care of the ball, as he has not thrown an interception yet this year. Reed leads the wide receiver corps with 9 receptions for 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. Michigan State's offensive line has been rock solid, opening up holes for the running backs and keeping Thorne on his feet. Their offense ranks 10th in the FBS with 553.0 yards per game. They are averaging nearly 300 rushing yards per contest. Derek King completed 20 of 33 passes for 200 yards. He also rushed for 79 yards in the win. Cameron Harris had 18 carries for 91 yards and 1 touchdown, while Keyshawn Smith had 4 receptions for 70 yards. The Spartans have scored on the first play from scrimmage in both games. Kenneth Walker III took the ball 75 yards for a touchdown against Northwestern, and Jaden Reed caught a 75-yard touchdown pass against Youngstown State. Michigan State's rushing attack has been fantastic early in the year. Miami struggled defensively in their first 2 games, giving up 33.5 points per game. They gave up 23 points in their last game and will need to play better, especially against the run, if they want to win this game. Our second betting advice is to pick over 56.5. Coastal Carolina vs Buffalo. The Coastal Carolina Chanticleers have been a pretty good defensive team this season as they have allowed 18 points per game so far. In their last game against the Kansas Jayhawks, they allowed 22 points on 412 total yards of offense, 238 passing, 174 rushing. They need to figure out how to stop the opposing offense from converting on 3rd down as the Jayhawks went 7 for 15 on 3rd down. They need to figure out how to stop the rushing attack as Kansas went 4.6 rushing yards per game. If Coastal Carolina can figure out how to step up defensively, it will do wonders for their program. Buffalo made waves over the last few seasons for their dominant rushing attack that saw two backs combine for over 1,700 yards and 26 touchdowns. Unfortunately, the changes on the offensive line and some changes in the backfield itself have blended itself to some growing pains early. The Bulls rank 32nd in the country in rushing yards per game, but only 112th in rushing attempts per game. A more heavy focus on the running game should allow the Bulls to have a chance at dominating the time of possession game, which can be a huge factor in this game. Kyle Vantris is the leader at quarterbacks and has had a little more freedom than previous seasons, tossing for 227.5 yards per game, but only one touchdown thus far. Kevin Marks Jr. is the focal point of the offense after last year's successful campaign. He's averaging 78.50 yards per game, but should get a heavy workload on Saturday. Expect a heavy dose of the running game to try to keep the Chanticleer offense on the sidelines, but the Bulls could be in for a surprise with the team's speed on the other side. Our first betting advice is to pick Coastal Carolina, -14. The Buffalo Bulls defense has been one of the better defenses this season as they are allowing 17.5 points per game. Looking at their last game against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, they allowed 28 points on 516 total yards of offense, 296 passing, 220 rushing. They need to figure out how to stop teams from running the ball at will against them as they allowed 5.4 rushing yards per carry. If they can figure out how to get some key stops, they will be in a good spot. Our second betting advice is to pick over 57.5. Quick reminder, you can get 125% cashback bonus on your first deposit on our partner sportsbook BetUS after you open an account using our link down below and use our promo code HIGHSTAKES when making your deposit. Cincinnati is averaging 45.5 points per game. They scored 42 points in their last game, throwing for 261 yards, while rushing for 130 yards. Penix Jr. is off to a slow start to his junior season. The Hoosiers' quarterback had emerged as a breakout candidate in the Big Ten after throwing for 24 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions over the last 2 seasons combined. However, that hasn't been the case yet this year. Desmond Ridder completed 14 of 22 passes for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jerome Ford had 18 carries for 113 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Tyler Scott had 4 receptions for 74 yards and 1 touchdown. Indiana's defense will try to build on last week's performance against the Vandals. It allowed just 261 yards of total offense versus Idaho and held the Vandals to just 3 for 14 on third down conversions. Cincinnati has also played well defensively, giving up 10.5 points per game through their first 2 games. They gave up 7 points in their last game and will need a similar performance if they want to get the win. Our first betting advice is to pick Cincinnati Bearcats -4. Our second betting advice is to pick over 49.5.